Hello and welcome back to another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I'm Eric. I did 11 years in prison and I talk about prison stuff. Today I'm telling you guys about some weird cases that I ran across while I was in prison. So be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Big shout out to my Patreon patrons, Brian Kitchens and Kenneth Iman. I appreciate you. And with that, let's get into the video. The first strange case. Now some of these are just outright weird. Some of them are stupid because I don't think some of these should even be illegal, or at the very least they shouldn't, carry prison time. But yeah, the first case, this guy's name was John. I met him over in U-Dorm in El Dorado, and he had a funny case because, in my opinion, it's just stupid because it was a registration violation. In the state of Kansas, you have a sex offender registration, you have a violent offender registration, and you have a drug offender registration. Just about anything in the state of Kansas can put you on a registration, it seems like. But this guy had a violent offender registration violation. Initially, he did a year and a half because he had like a battery or something like that, and he had a firearm on him when the crime was committed. So he does his year and a half, he gets out, he's off paper, but he fails to register. Every 3 months you have to go down to the sheriff's department at, whatever county you live in, and you have to give them all your personal information, your phone number, your social media accounts, your email, what you drive, where you park what you drive, where you work, all that stuff. If I change my social media account, if I get a new social media account, I have to report it to the sheriff's office. If I get a new phone number, I have to report it to the sheriff's office. And if I fail to report anything to the sheriff's office, then I can get a new felony charge out of it and go right back to prison. And that's kind of what this guy's situation was. He had to register as a violent offender. He did his year and a half on his gun charge, and then he fails to update his registration. And he got a 10-year sentence for failure to register. How messed up is that? Your initial case, you do a year and a half. You failed to tell the sheriff's department about a social media account or a change in your phone number, just slips your mind, and now you're looking at 10 years for not telling someone that you changed your phone number. Crazy. So that is the first weird case that I wanted to talk about. The next case was a little bit different. This guy got charged with second-degree murder. He was at a party at his house. He was hosting a party, I should have said. But a guy started getting belligerent, and they were getting into an argument. They got into a scuffle. Jason, the guy who I'm talking about here, told the other guy to leave, and the dude refused to leave. So this happened in kind of a country environment. Jason had a shotgun loaded with rock salt. So he grabs the shotgun, and he goes and he shoots the guy in the chest at close range with it. For a long time, before tasers were a thing and pepper spray was commonly used, people in the country would use rock salt as a less than lethal form of ammunition. You could shoot someone with rock salt and maybe not kill them. But in this instance, when Jason shot the dude in the chest with that rock salt, he killed him. And he got charged with second-degree murder, and he was sent to prison for over 10 years, over a decade on that case. And I think he was 15 or 16 years old at the time he committed the crime. The next one I want to talk about was a guy named John Smith, and that is actually his name, and he was one of my cellies. All right, dude. Pretty cool. He was from Wyandotte. He got into a BB gun fight with his friend, and they were both just having fun, It wasn't that he attacked the other dude with a BB gun or the other dude attacked him with a BB gun. They were just having a BB gun fight, And someone called the cops on him. The cops showed up, and they were both arrested, and they were both charged with battery. And he ended up getting 3 years over having a BB gun fight with his buddy, because I guess that's illegal in the state of Kansas, or it was at the time. Laws in Kansas have changed quite a bit. Like back in the day, there wasn't even a self-defense law. If someone punched you and you punched them back, you were both going to jail for battery. So now we do have a self-defense law and things like that, but I guess at the time, having a BB gun fight could send you to prison. The next one I want to talk about is a buddy of mine. I actually call him a brother. Fat Freddy. He had a kind of a messed up case, and he was from Wyandotte too. He got popped for transporting untaxed cigarettes from Kansas City, Missouri to Kansas City, Kansas. He had like a trunk full of cigarettes, I guess, and he took it over state lines, and because they were untaxed, he ended up getting, I think, 3 years or something like that behind it. But yeah, in the state of Kansas, if you have more than 200 cigarettes without the tax stamp on them and you're crossing state lines or something like that, you can go to prison for it. So, kind of dumb, in my opinion. We got people in prison for some really stupid stuff. Now, this next one is actually the weirdest case, not because it's stupid, because it is genuinely weird. Creepy, weird, all of that. When I was in prison, there was a guy there who people called Aflac. They also called him other things, but he was in prison originally for raping a duck in the park. Dude was in the car with his brother, and he was in the front seat, had a duck in the front seat. This took place in Wichita, but he was in the front seat of the car with a duck that he had snagged in the park. His brother was in the back seat with a duck, and they were raping ducks together, and they got arrested. I guess dude's brother told on him, and he got off the charges. But yeah, I mean, dude was legit in prison for foul play. So that happened, and he ended up serving out his sentence. Now, people harassed him the entire time he was in prison. People used to call him duck fucker. They used to call him Aflac. When dude would, go across the yard, people would just shout out, Aflac, Aflac. He never got a break from the harassment. And he was kind of a big guy. He was about 6'8", and for a lot of the time that I was in the same prison as him, he was in a wheelchair, but he wasn't really afraid of fighting either. Like he would invite people to fight, but as soon as he stood up out of his wheelchair, he was huge. He was, over 300 pounds. He was 6'8", had a long beard and white hair, and just a really strange individual. But he got out of prison, and he ended up going back on a murder case, and right now he is doing life in prison. But the reason why he caught the murder case, he gets out of prison, he gets an apartment, and his landlord got wind of why he was in prison, figured out why the dude was in prison originally. His landlord thought it was hilarious. So on Halloween, his landlord dressed up like Donald Duck and knocked on dude's door as a joke. And the dude apparently couldn't take the joke. You know what I mean? Anyway, he killed his landlord and went back to prison on a murder charge. So that was that. But yeah, that's by far the weirdest case I've ever come across in prison. Now, there have been some that were more heinous. There have been some that were a little bit, more brutal or whatever. But, the guy was brutalizing ducks, of all things. And and then he ended up killing a guy dressed up like Donald Duck. It's mind blowing. It really is. But that happened. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm Eric. This has been another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I will see you all later.